Alex is in town again. Says it's work, but I know better. My phone buzzed in my pocket when I'm supposed to be at some stupid team building thing with work. It's him. Meet me by the elevators. 10 minutes. My heart did that flip-flop thing. Should I? Shouldn't I? But there's this pull. Like I'm on a leash and he's yanking, and it's not in my control. Bathroom. I always go to the bathroom, make an excuse, slip out. The elevators are crowded, but I see him waiting, leaning against the wall. He does that half-smile thing, and my legs nearly give out. Conference room's boring, he whispers, and the smell of him. It's not cologne exactly, just him. It's making my head spin. I know, I should go back, I say, but my voice is weak, and we both know I'm lying. He grabs my hand, not caring if people see. We walk fast, down some side hallway I don't even know exists in this hotel. Empty meeting room. He locks the door behind us and I'm already panicking a little, but it's a good panic. His mouth is on mine. It's rough, hungry. I'm kissing back. All the thoughts of Michael a million miles away. He pushes me against the table. My back hurts, but I don't even care. Sarah? He's gasping my name into my ear, and I don't want this to stop, ever. Then, a knock. Just one knock, but it breaks the spell. I push him away, heart pounding so loud I swear he can hear it. We have to stop, I manage to say. My voice sounds weird, not like mine. He frowns but doesn't fight me. We fix our clothes, check ourselves in the dusty mirror. Another knock, louder this time. Maintenance, a muffled voice calls. Alex grins, lucky save. Walking back, the hallways seem brighter. The conference chatter feels far away. I don't look at Alex. I need to think, but all that's in my head is his hands on me. The way he said my name. This morning, I actually put on makeup. Like, real makeup, not just the cover up the dark circle stuff. A little eyeliner, even mascara. My heart was doing this excited thumping thing in my chest. I caught myself smiling in the bathroom mirror. Haven't done that in forever. At work, it felt like every second ticked by slower. Waiting for his text, the usual lunch hour stuff with the other hygienists just seemed so stupid. All their gossip about patients and kids. All I could think about was Alex. His message finally came, usual spot, 1 p.m. sharp. I almost threw up, but in a good way, excitement, and nerves too. There was that hygienist I hate, the one who always gives me side eye. So I pretended my stomach was in knots. Told her I needed to get home real quick. She looked suspicious, but I didn't care. The restaurant's the kind of place Michael and I would never go. A bit too fancy, kind of dark inside. Alex was already there, waving me over. He ordered a bottle of wine in the middle of the day, and that made me giggle. To us, he said, raising his glass. I almost felt bad, just for a second, clinking glasses with him and not Michael. We talked like we'd known each other forever. He made me laugh, not like the smile I do with Michael. He touched my hand across the table, just for a second, and it was electric. 2 hours disappeared. Had to make up something about a crazy patient emergency, so I could get back to work. The rest of the afternoon was a blur. Getting ready for dinner. I was buzzing. Alex was on my mind, and Michael just sent euro in the way. Like, I had to pretend to care about his boring teacher stories, pretend to listen when he went on about some book. I found myself snapping at him over what to have for dinner. He looked at me, confused. What's gotten into you lately? He asked. The guilt hit, but I pushed it down. Alex wouldn't ask that. He'd already be planning our next stolen moment. The minute I walked through the door, I knew Michael was onto me. He didn't say anything at first, just that look on his face. The one where his eyebrows do that little frown. I tried to act normal, busying myself in the kitchen to avoid his eyes. So, late shift again? He finally asked. His voice was quiet, too quiet. Emergency patient. Root canal gone bad, I lied. The words came out automatic, but I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. He was staring at me. Something's different, Sarah. You've been different. My heart hammered in my chest. He knows. He has to know, but I couldn't admit it. Not yet. Different? What are you talking about? I'm just stressed, I snapped, turning away. Then, that stupid buzzing sound. My phone on the counter. A text from Alex, plain as day. My stomach dropped to the floor. Michael saw it too. He picked up the phone. Reading? I could see his hands start to shake a little. Who's Alex? His voice was barely above a whisper. I couldn't think, couldn't form a lie fast enough. He's just a colleague, I stammered. Pathetic. He looked at me. There were tears in his eyes. I'd never seen Michael cry before. Not ever. Don't insult me, Sarah. Please, he said. The room felt like it was closing in. Alex was texting again, asking if I was okay. When we were meeting next, I wanted to scream. Get out, Michael said. It wasn't a yell, just this flat, dead voice. Just pack a bag and go. Something inside of me snapped. I didn't know if it was anger or shame, or some messed up mix of both. Fine, I said, my voice shaking. I will. I did. It was a blur, throwing clothes in a suitcase, ignoring Michael standing in the doorway, watching me with those sad, broken eyes. Each step out that door felt like a nail in the coffin of everything I knew. Alex's apartment wasn't what I thought it'd be. Not fancy like in the hotel rooms, just kind of messy. Clothes everywhere, those energy drink cans piled up. It smelled different than my house with Michael. Staler, somehow. I tried not to think about Michael, about our house, the way the kitchen table always had a stack of his books on it, or the den in the couch where he'd sit and watch those stupid documentaries. The guilt was a knot in my stomach, but when Alex got home, all excited to see me, the knot would loosen a bit. He'd kiss me, pour me a glass of wine, and for a while, I'd forget. Then the mail came, that thick envelope with some lawyer's return address. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Divorce papers, seeing it all written out like that, official. It punched me in the gut. I cried. Alex came over, trying to be comforting, but it felt wrong. He didn't get it. How everything I'd known was just ripped apart. Nights got the worst. When it was quiet, and Alex was snoring beside me, Michael would creep back into my head. I found myself reaching for my phone, fumbling to dial his number. He never answered. Sometimes he'd hang up right away, other times it would go to voicemail. One night, I left a message. Probably shouldn't have, the wine talking. My voice slurred and pathetic, begging for forgiveness, promising I'd change. In the morning, I felt sick with shame, but there was no taking it back. The whispers started at work. Clients giving me weird looks, the other hygienists avoiding me in the break room. I heard it from a patient, of all people. You know, the one whose husband left her. Alex would get annoyed when I came home upset. Ignore them. He'd say, they're just jealous. But he didn't see how people looked at me, or how I looked at myself in the mirror. It wasn't the thrilling escape anymore. It was just a mess. My mess. Alex had this way of making little digs about Michael. At first, it was subtle, like how he'd roll his eyes whenever I mentioned something Michael did. Then it got more obvious. Must have been a real riveting conversation. He'd say if I came home talking about dinner with my parents. The sting of it surprised me. I used to complain about Michael all the time, but hearing it from Alex, it felt different. Mean. My friends, the ones I always went out with for drinks, they started being distant. Text messages went unanswered, excuses were flimsy. One of them, Emily, finally had coffee with me. It was awkward. Look, Sarah, I love you, but what you did to Michael, it's messed up, she'd said. I wanted to argue, to say I was happy now, but I couldn't meet her eyes. Work was a nightmare. I couldn't focus, kept messing up appointments, snapping at patients. My boss, Mrs. Peterson, she called me into her office. That stern look on her face, the one that meant trouble. Sarah, what's going on? You've been different lately. Distracted, she said. There was no hiding it. I just kind of mumbled some dumb excuse about stress, but I don't think she bought it. The worst, the absolute worst, was the anniversary. Our anniversary, Michael and I always made a big deal of it. A fancy dinner, a gift. He was always so sweet, even when the gifts were kind of dorky. Alex didn't remember. Not until I reminded him, and even then, it was just a shrug. Oh yeah, cool, let's order pizza. I locked myself in the bathroom and cried. It was stupid, but it felt like a slap in the face. Like everything I'd done, everything I'd thrown away, had been for nothing. That night, I saw it. Alex on his phone, texting away while I pretended to watch TV. Trying to be casual, I asked who he was chatting with. He froze for a second. Just a client, he said, a bit too quickly. Later, when he was in the shower, I snuck a look at his phone. My heart sank. It was a girl's name I didn't recognize. The messages were flirty, the same kind Alex sent me at the beginning. I saw a red, that's all I remember. Seeing Alex at the bar, laughing with some blonde girl who couldn't have been older than 20, his hand on her thigh. Same way he used to touch me. Before I knew what I was doing, I was marching over to their table, my voice shaking with rage. What the hell do you think you're doing? I screeched. The whole bar turned to look. Alex's face went white. The girl looked scared. Sarah, calm down. You're making a scene, he hissed. That made it worse. I started yelling about lies and betrayal and everything awful he'd done. People were staring, whispering. I didn't even care. Someone called security. I think Alex did, trying to shut me up. I slapped him, hard, right across the face. That's when they dragged me out. The next morning, it was all over the local news. Some idiot had filmed the whole thing. My face was plastered everywhere. Dentist's wife causes drunken brawl. Great. At work, Mrs. Peterson was waiting for me. Her office door was closed, which never meant anything good. Sarah, I cannot have this kind of behavior associated with my practice, she said, her voice tight. I'm letting you go. Just like that. Fired. Humiliated. Alex wasn't any happier. This is crazy. You ruined everything, he yelled when I got home. I didn't fight back. I packed my things, him yelling all the while. Get out of my apartment and don't come back, he screamed as I slammed the door. And that was it. I was on the street. My stupid suitcase the only thing I had left. No job, no friends, no Michael. It started to rain. I huddled under a bus stop, shivering. A pathetic, soaking mess. I found myself driving past Michael's house. Stupid. I know, but I couldn't stop myself. His car was in the driveway. A warm light was on in the living room. I imagined him inside, reading. Maybe he had a new dog. Maybe someone else was there with him. A knot formed in my throat. That used to be my spot on the couch, my warm light. I used to be the person he came home to. And for what? For Alex, with his lies and that stupid smirk. The rain mixed with my tears, and I finally let myself howl like a wounded animal. It felt good in a way, because that's what I was, hurt, broken, and all alone. I should have known better, but some stupid part of me still hoped Alex would change. It was pathetic. Then, I saw it. Him, with some new girl hanging off his arm, younger than me, with that wide-eyed look I used to have when he'd turn on the charm. I watched them laughing outside a coffee shop, and a wave of nausea hit me. Not just disgust, but also this weird, twisted jealousy that he could just replace me like that. My body decided to betray me as well. My period, always like clockwork, was late. Really late. The panic started as a small knot in my stomach, and then spread like wildfire. I couldn't be pregnant. I couldn't be pregnant with his child. Those days waiting to buy a pregnancy test were the worst. Every time I went to the bathroom, I held my breath, terrified. The thought of being tied to Alex forever, through a child. I couldn't take it. Finally, I got the courage to buy the test. Sitting on the toilet, waiting for the result, I nearly passed out. Negative. The relief washed over me, then the shame. What was I even thinking? Hoping for a baby with a man like Alex? It was like the last shred of self-respect got sucked out of me. That night, I did something I swore I'd never do. I wrote to Michael. Pages and pages. Apologies. Explanations that didn't excuse anything. Begging for forgiveness I didn't even deserve. I put the letter in the mailbox, my hands shaking. Then came the waiting. Weeks went by. Nothing. No response. No sign he'd even gotten it. Each day it got worse, the silence. Like he just erased me completely from his life. And maybe he was right to do so. After everything, his silence was the loudest answer I could get. I was at the end of my rope, crying every night, barely eating, too scared to even check my phone in case there were more messages about the bar fight. Everyone who mattered was gone. I needed help, someone to talk to. But the idea of facing another person, explaining what I'd done, that was almost as bad as the pain itself. Finally, I found a therapist online. Someone with an office far enough away no one would recognize me. The waiting room was awful. sweaty palms, heart pounding. When she called my name, I almost bolted. Her name was Dr. Evans. Kind eyes, but serious. I spilled it all out. The affair, the divorce, Alex, the job, everything. The words tumbled out in a jumbled mess. Shame washed over me in waves, but she didn't interrupt. Just let me get it all out. When I was done, hiccuping sobs, she just nodded. Sarah, you've been through a trauma, she said. It was weird, hearing it put like that. Trauma. She told me the usual stuff, about coping mechanisms and support groups and the long road ahead. I didn't absorb much. It all just felt so hopeless. Leaving her office, I felt even worse. Drained. And now, I had to face the real world again. The job hunt. A new place to live. My fancy dental hygienist resume with that big gap was laughable. No one was going to hire the woman from that stupid bar fight video. The only place I could afford was a dumpy studio. It smelled like old carpet and the bathroom was tiny. Nothing like the house with Michael, the guest room, and the big backyard. Lying on the scratchy sofa that night, I thought I'd never feel safe or normal again. The worst, the absolute worst, was at the grocery store. I was hunched over in the cereal aisle, trying to pretend I wasn't starving, when I heard his voice. Well, look who it is. Michael. I hadn't seen him in months. He looked good, maybe a little thinner, but good, steady, the way he always was. I wanted to disappear. Sarah, he said again, softer this time. Michael, I managed to squeak out. We stood there, the most awkward small talk imaginable. How are you? The weather. Stupid stuff. I wanted to scream, beg, apologize, but all he gave me was this polite, closed-off smile. It hurt more than any yelling could have. He wasn't alone. There was a woman with him. Young, pretty, with one of those easy laughs. The kind I used to have. My stomach twisted into 1,000 knots. They were picking out apples or something. Her leaning into him, pointing. He looked happy, really happy. Not the fake happiness Alex always put on. It hit me then. A wave of nausea and the awful truth. This was real. Michael had moved on. While I was wasting away in my crappy apartment, his life was still going, maybe even better without me. It was too much. I stumbled out of the aisle, mumbling some stupid excuse about feeling sick. I couldn't face them, the polite questions and the pity in their eyes. The parking lot was where I lost it. Big, ugly sobs. The kind where you can't catch your breath and your whole body shakes. I must have looked insane. This woman curled up in her rusty car, screaming into the steering wheel. When I finally calmed down enough to drive, I went back to Dr. Evans. I didn't even make it to the waiting room before the tears started again. She brought up a support group before. Women who'd been through similar things. The idea had seemed mortifying, but now I was desperate. It's on Thursday nights, Dr. Evans said, handing me a tissue and a brochure. I think it would be good for you, Sarah. I took the brochure. Cheesy picture of women holding hands in a circle. Didn't exactly scream fun, but I was out of options. Thursday night, the group met in a dingy church basement. I almost chickened out twice. The women were all different ages, some dressed up, some in sweats, but their eyes, they all had that same haunted look, like they knew exactly what I had done. The leader asked us to share our stories. One by one, they did. Betrayal, heartbreak, the struggle to rebuild. A few of them had cheated, others had been cheated on. It was a jumble of pain, and for the first time in forever, I didn't feel completely alone. My turn came. I choked on the words, but I told them the truth. About Alex, Michael, the lies. My voice shook, but I got through it. No one yelled at me or judged. Instead, they nodded, some with tears in their own eyes. One woman, with kind eyes and graying hair, put her hand on mine. We've all made mistakes, honey, she said. But you're here now, and that's what matters. The support group became a lifeline. It wasn't all sunshine and breakthrough moments, but the honesty was what I needed. These women didn't sugarcoat how hard it would be. Every week I'd leave feeling stronger, and a tiny bit less ashamed. Dr. Evans helped too. It was slow, entangling all the mess in my head. Finally, I started to admit it. I had screwed up. No blaming Michael for being boring, or Alex for being exciting. The choice to walk away, to betray, that was all on me. I desperately needed a change of scenery. New town, new job, a chance to be someone who wasn't just the woman who cheated. I found a receptionist position hours away. A major pay cut, a tiny apartment, but it was a clean slate. The job itself wasn't thrilling, answering phones and making appointments. But my boss was nice. The clients kept to themselves. No one knew me or cared about my past. I started running in the evenings, signed up for a pottery class, clumsy attempts to create something new from the wreckage. Then came the news. From Donna, the only coworker I'd actually gotten to know a little. "Did you hear about your ex?" she asked one day. I went ice cold. "Michael, what about him?" Donna had that look people get when they're about to spill some juicy gossip. "He's getting married. That woman you saw him with at the store. I guess it was serious." A hammer slammed into my chest. I managed to mumble something about being happy for him, but inside, I felt a sharp pang of something, not quite jealousy, but a sadness. The wedding was a few months later. I shouldn't have even looked it up online, but I couldn't stop myself. There they were, him and her, smiling under a flower arch. She looked beautiful in her white dress. He looked happy, the real kind, not like with me. Part of me wanted to go, drive there, watch from the back, some stupid, dramatic gesture. But that was the old Sarah, the one who made everything a mess. The day of the wedding, I forced myself to go for a run, long and hard. I cried a little, sweat mixing with the tears. Later, sitting in the park, I watched a group of kids play, their laughter echoing in the air. That's when it hit me, the simple truth. It was over. My life with Michael, the what-ifs and the maybes, none of it existed. The moment I saw Michael across the crowded room of our tiny apartment, decked out with balloons and a homemade banner that read, "Happy 5th Anniversary," I knew I'd hit the jackpot. 5 years, and here we were, still crazy about each other. Or so I thought. We clinked glasses, the cheap wine tasting like luxury because it was us, together. "To us," he said, eyes sparkling with the same light I fell for in college. Surrounded by photos of our travels, it felt like we had the world at our fingertips. The next morning, I decided to surprise him at work with his favorite, a classic turkey and cheese sandwich, nothing fancy but made with love. Sneaking into the hospital cafeteria, I caught that smile of his from across the room, the one that always made me feel like the most important person in the world. We stole a moment among the chaos, his colleagues throwing us envious glances. "You always know how to make my day," he whispered, kissing me quickly before rushing back to his duties. Weekends were our sanctuary, volunteering at the local animal shelter, a cause close to both our hearts. One Saturday, we found ourselves amidst a flurry of tails and wet noses, helping families find their new best friends. "We make a great team, don't we?" Michael said, handing me another leash. I couldn't help but agree, pride swelling in my chest at our shared commitment to something bigger than us. Dinner parties with friends always highlighted how in sync we were. That night, we were the perfect duo, laughter and shared glances making our connection seem unbreakable. Our friends, a melting pot of cultures and backgrounds, often sought our advice, seeing us as the epitome of relationship goals. "How do you guys do it?" they'd ask, and we'd just smile, claiming it was all about communication and love. Michael's birthday was around the corner, and I planned the ultimate surprise, a hiking trip to our favorite trail, culminating in a campfire under the stars with our closest friends. The highlight? A handmade photo album of our adventures, a testament to our journey together. "I can't believe you did all this," he said, voice thick with emotion. It felt like a reaffirmation of our love, unspoken promises made under the night sky. But then, Alex happened, the new guy at work, with a charm that was undeniable and a dedication that matched my own. We clicked instantly, spending long hours on a project that seemed to bring us closer every day. "He's just a friend," I told myself, ignoring the flutter in my chest whenever his name popped up on my phone. Confiding in my friend after a particularly grueling day, I brushed off her concerns about my growing attraction to Alex. "It's harmless," I insisted, even as guilt gnawed at me. "It was just a crush, right? Nothing I couldn't handle." But deep down, I feared I was standing on the edge of something that could either be a thrilling adventure or the biggest mistake of my life. The air was thick with tension, the kind you could cut with a knife. Sitting across from Michael at our kitchen table, surrounded by the remnants of a life we built together, I felt a pang of guilt so sharp it almost took my breath away. But it was Alex's name that danced on my tongue, a secret I harbored like a forbidden treasure. Michael, with his predictable routines and comforting presence, suddenly seemed like a distant memory, overshadowed by Alex's exhilarating unpredictability. It wasn't supposed to happen. One minute, Alex and I were just colleagues sharing a laugh over a late-night project. In the next, we were diving headfirst into uncharted waters. Our conversations, filled with dreams and desires, made me question if the life I had with Michael was enough. Alex made me feel alive, sparking a flame I thought had long been extinguished. One evening, under the guise of work, Alex and I found ourselves at a dimly lit bar, the kind where secrets are both revealed and concealed. Our laughter filled the air, creating a bubble around us that made the outside world fade away. It was intoxicating, this connection that seemed to defy logic and reason. By the time we stumbled into the hotel room, I was too lost in the moment to consider the consequences. The lies came easily after that, each one a brick in the wall I was building between Michael and me. Just working late again, I'd say, my voice steady even as guilt gnawed at me. But the thrill of the affair was like a drug, and I was too addicted to stop. Michael's suspicion was inevitable. His confrontation started off gentle, tinged with confusion and hurt. "Is everything okay? You've been so distant lately," he'd probe, searching my face for answers I wasn't ready to give. I'd brush him off, labeling his concern as clinginess, a defense mechanism to shield myself from the truth. But when my friend confronted me, her words hit too close to home. "Jane, what are you doing?" she demanded, her disappointment a mirror to my own turmoil. "I can stop whenever I want," I lied, both to her and to myself, clinging to the illusion of control. The day Michael found the hotel receipt was the day my world started to crumble. His face, a mixture of betrayal and heartbreak, was a punch to the gut. "How could you?" he whispered, the weight of his words heavier than any argument we'd ever had. I tried to downplay the affair, to make it seem like a mistake that meant nothing, but the damage was done. As I stood there, facing the ruins of my marriage, I couldn't help but wonder if the excitement was worth the price. The adventure I sought with Alex had led me to a crossroads, and the path I chose had shattered the life I once treasured. In that moment, I realized that the thrill I chased was fleeting, but the consequences were forever. I remember the morning I left like it was yesterday. The decision felt like ripping off a Band-Aid, quick and painful. I scribbled down my feelings, my apologies, and my reasons in a letter left on the kitchen counter, the same place where we used to share breakfast and dreams. With every step away from our home, I felt a mixture of liberation and dread. "This is for the best," I kept telling myself, trying to drown out the echo of my heartbreaking. Starting over with Alex was thrilling at first, like stepping into a new world. But as the days turned to weeks, the excitement faded, revealing a reality I hadn't anticipated. Alex, once the epitome of charm and adventure, became distant and self-centered. The qualities I thought I admired in him were nothing but a facade, leaving me to confront the emptiness of our connection. Meanwhile, Michael seemed to flourish without me. Through mutual friends, I heard about his achievements and saw pictures of him looking happier and more fulfilled than ever. It was a stark contrast to the life I had chosen, filled with regret and what-ifs. I reached out, hoping for a chance to explain, to apologize, but he was distant, his replies polite but cold. It was clear he had moved on, focusing on his own path of healing and growth. At work, whispers and sideways glances became my daily reality. The affair, once a secret shared in shadows, was now common knowledge, tarnishing my professional reputation. Colleagues I considered friends looked at me with disappointment and judgment. It was a sobering reminder of the consequences of my actions. As I watched Michael from afar, thriving and advancing in his career, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of loss. His promotion was a testament to his resilience, a quality I once admired and now longed for. My own life, in contrast, seemed to be in a constant state of turmoil, a far cry from the stability and love I once had with him. The realization hit me hard. I hadn't just lost my marriage, I had lost myself. The affair, which I thought would bring me happiness, had only led to heartache and a profound sense of emptiness. Pride kept me from admitting my mistake out loud, but inside, I was crumbling, haunted by the choices I had made. Watching Michael's transformation from a distance was a bittersweet pill to swallow. His success and newfound happiness served as a constant reminder of what could have been if I had chosen differently. It was a painful lesson in the consequences of our actions and the irrevocable changes they bring to our lives and the lives of those we love. The moment I confronted Alex, my world came crashing down around me. The man I thought was my fresh start, my escape from a life I believed was suffocating me, was nothing but a facade. His confession of infidelity was like a punch to the gut, a cruel echo of the betrayal I myself had committed. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had left my marriage for this, a relationship built on lies and fleeting moments of passion. In desperation, I sought out Michael, hoping for forgiveness, or at least a chance to explain myself. But the door was metaphorically and literally closed in my face. He had moved on, his silence louder than any words of rejection could ever be. It was a painful realization that some bridges, once burned, couldn't be rebuilt. Professionally, my life took a nosedive. The project I had poured my heart into, alongside Alex, failed miserably. My demotion was a public declaration of my fall from grace, a daily reminder of the cost of my personal decisions. Work, once my sanctuary, became a minefield of pitying glances and whispered judgments. Feeling more isolated than ever, I attended a party thrown by a mutual friend, clutching at any semblance of normalcy. There, from across the room, I saw Michael, radiant and content amidst a crowd of admirers. He was a living testament to life after heartbreak, thriving in ways I couldn't have imagined. The sight of him, so happy and fulfilled, was a stark contrast to the emptiness I felt inside. It was a reminder of everything I had lost, not just with him, but within myself. In the aftermath, I turned to therapy, a last-ditch effort to salvage what was left of my fractured self. The sessions were grueling, a deep dive into the guilt and shame that had become my constant companions. Yet, amidst the turmoil, there was a glimmer of hope, a chance to confront my mistakes and learn to live with them. When news of Michael's engagement reached me, it was a sobering confirmation of the end of our chapter. He had found someone who shared his values, his passions, someone who could give him the life I had so recklessly thrown away. The finality of it all was a bitter pill to swallow, marking the closure I had longed for but never truly wanted. In my attempts to move on, I found myself venturing back into the dating world, a landscape that had drastically changed since I last navigated it. Yet, each encounter left me feeling more disconnected than before. The trust one once gave so freely was now guarded behind walls I had built to protect myself from further pain. My past, with its shadows of betrayal and regret, made it nearly impossible to form new connections, leaving me to wonder if the price of my actions was a lifetime of solitude. Each step forward was a battle, a constant struggle between the person I was and the one I wanted to become. The road to redemption was long and fraught with setbacks, but it was a path I was determined to tread, armed with the hard-earned knowledge of my faults and the faint hope of forgiveness, not from Michael, but from myself. Walking through the doors of the animal shelter where Michael and I once volunteered felt like stepping into a world I had left behind. The familiar barks and meows echoed around me, a stark reminder of a life filled with shared purpose and love. I half expected to see Michael there, laughing and playing with the animals. But the reality hit hard. I was alone, navigating the wreckage of my own choices. It wasn't long after that visit when life threw another curveball my way. My phone rang with news that would normally send anyone into a panic. My father was seriously ill, but instead of fear, I felt a wave of clarity wash over me. It was as if his illness was a wake-up call, reminding me of the importance of family and the forgiveness that often goes unspoken. Reaching out to old friends felt like walking a tightrope, each step fraught with the potential of rejection. I braced myself for cold shoulders and unanswered calls, but to my surprise, some friends welcomed me back with open arms. Their willingness to move past my mistakes gave me hope, a glimmer of light in a path I thought was forever darkened. Encouraged, I joined a local community project, throwing myself into work that aimed to make a real difference. It was there, amidst people dedicated to change and growth, that I began to feel a sense of belonging again. Their stories, diverse and inspiring, challenged me to look at the world through a lens of empathy and understanding, something I had lost sight of in my own turmoil. Just when I thought I was making progress, Alex reappeared, claiming he had changed and wanted to start over. But as he spoke, all I could see were the same patterns, the same empty promises. It was a painful but necessary realization. I had grown, and part of that growth meant recognizing what I truly deserved. Amidst this journey of self-discovery, my father's health began to improve, and with it, our relationship strengthened. Sitting beside his hospital bed, listening to his stories and sharing my own, I learned the true meaning of resilience and the power of second chances. It was a lesson in forgiveness, not just for others, but for myself. Through the ups and downs, the setbacks, and the small victories, I found myself on a path of redemption. It was a path paved with the lessons learned from the shelter, the community project, and the renewed bond with my father. Each step forward was a step away from the person I was, towards the person I wanted to be, a person capable of love, forgiveness, and, most importantly, change. The moment my name was called, a ripple of surprise coursed through me. Standing there, clutching the small but meaningful award for my work on the community project, I felt a mix of pride and humility wash over me. It was a tangible acknowledgement of my efforts to change, to make a positive impact in a world I had once considered turning my back on. The applause that filled the room was not just for the project's success, but for the personal victories that had come with it. But life, as always, had a way of keeping me grounded. A random encounter with one of Michael's friends turned into an unexpected opportunity for growth. The conversation was awkward at first, filled with hesitations and unspoken questions. Yet, as we spoke, I learned about Michael's new life, his engagement, his successes, and most strikingly, his forgiveness. Hearing about his maturity and generosity, I couldn't help but feel both happy for him and reflective on my own journey. This reflection spurred me into action. I decided to further my education, enrolling in a course that not only aligned with my professional aspirations, but also mirrored my journey towards personal growth. It was a step towards rebuilding myself, not just for my career but for my own sense of self-worth. However, with change came challenges. Financial difficulties hit hard, a stark reminder of the divorce and the lifestyle adjustments that followed. The struggle to manage my finances independently was daunting, yet it taught me a valuable lesson in responsibility and resilience. Each bill paid and budget balanced was a victory, small but significant. Visiting my old home, now occupied by a new family, was a poignant experience. Standing outside, looking in at a life that was no longer mine, I was struck by the impermanence of it all. It was a moment of introspection, a realization of the importance of cherishing what one has, for it can all change in the blink of an eye. Slowly but surely, my professional reputation began to recover. Colleagues started to recognize the sincerity of my efforts to amend my past mistakes. Their acknowledgement was a balm to the wounds of my past, a sign that perhaps I was finally moving in the right direction. The culmination of this journey of redemption came at a professional conference, where I presented a project I was deeply passionate about. The positive feedback and support from my peers were overwhelming, a stark contrast to the professional setbacks I had faced. It was a moment of triumph, not just for the project, but for the personal battles I had fought and won along the way. Each step, each action, was a piece of the puzzle, slowly coming together to form a picture of a life rebuilt on the foundations of hard work, forgiveness, and personal growth. It was a testament to the fact that while the past may shape us, it does not define us. We have the power to change, to grow, and to make a positive impact, both in our own lives and in the lives of those around us. The day I brought Max home from the shelter, his tail wagging as if he knew he was about to start a new chapter, mirrored my own journey of healing and self-discovery. Max, a scruffy terrier with eyes full of unconditional love, became more than just a pet. He was a symbol of my path towards healing and self-forgiveness. His presence filled my apartment with life and joy, reminding me daily of the responsibilities we owe to ourselves and those we care for. In search of a way to process my journey and connect with others, I started a blog. Each post, a raw and honest reflection of my experiences, became a bridge to a community of people who, like me, were navigating their own mazes of personal and professional challenges. Writing became my solace, a way to untangle the web of emotions and lessons that had defined my recent years. Life, however, had more lessons in store. An unexpected health scare landed me in the hospital, a brief but jarring reminder of life's fragility. It was during this time, surrounded by the sterile walls of a hospital room, that I truly understood the value of the support network I had. Friends, colleagues, even distant acquaintances reached out, offering words of encouragement and offers of help. The realization that I wasn't as alone as I had once felt was both humbling and uplifting. Reflection became a significant part of my daily routine, leading me to understand the crucial importance of self-love and acceptance. I learned that happiness and fulfillment were not reliant on others, but were states I could cultivate within myself. This revelation was liberating, a release from the chains of expectation and comparison that had once bound me. Driven by a desire to give back, I began volunteering as a mentor for young professionals in my field. Sharing my story, the good and the bad, became a way to guide others away from the pitfalls I had stumbled into. It was rewarding, seeing the impact of my experiences on others, helping them navigate their careers with a little more caution and a lot more hope. A year into therapy, I took a moment to acknowledge the progress I had made. The journey had been anything but easy, filled with moments of doubt, fear, and regret. Yet, here I was, stronger and more self-aware, recognizing the strength it took to confront my flaws and commit to change. When I heard about Michael's wedding, a wave of emotions washed over me. In a gesture of goodwill and closure, I sent them a congratulatory note. It was a small act, but for me, it represented the final step in letting go, an acknowledgement of our shared past and my genuine wishes for his happiness. The true confrontation, however, came on a quiet evening as I stood alone on a bridge overlooking the city. The world moved around me, alive and vibrant, and in that moment, I confronted the full weight of my choices and their consequences. There was no grand redemption, no erasing the past. Instead, there was acceptance, a deep, profound acceptance of my journey and the resolve to live with the outcomes of my decisions. Standing there, I realized that this was not the end but a beginning of a life lived with understanding, compassion, and an unyielding commitment to growth. The city lights shimmered below, a reflection of the complex, beautiful, and sometimes painful tapestry of life, and as I walked away from the bridge, I knew I was ready to face